At the beginning, the IEC looked a lot different. It was propelled by energy from the first Earth Day in 1970. There were 2 full-time staff positions, about 20 affiliated groups, 1 electric typewriter, and a mimeograph machine. But the mission was the same as it is now, to inform, to educate, to advocate for a healthful environment throughout Illinois. As IEC was first taking shape, 1974-75, the question arose of whether or not groups could work together in coalition, and did they really want to? And fortunately, they were wise enough to recognize that there's power in numbers.
IEC really reflects the growth of our movement, not only in terms of the number of people involved and the breadth of our agenda, but also the way that our focus on issues has changed over time. Virtually any significant environmental policy improvement that helps our communities is because of the work of the environmental movement and citizens and organizations coming together. And when we're talking about state policy, that's really done under the IEC coalition banner.
The Climate and Equitable Jobs Act is the most comprehensive climate and equity bill in the nation. And most importantly, it's going to help underserved communities build their economic base. Without the support of Jen Walling, IEC's executive director, their policy team, and all of their staff, this bill would not have been possible.
Passing the Lead Replacement Act was a huge victory to the state of Illinois. We will be able to provide clean drinking water across the entire state of Illinois. The great thing about partnering with IEC on a bill is that they bring everyone together to make sure that we have not only a comprehensive bill, but a bill that everyone can agree on. That's important.
The funding found this past spring for the Partners for Conservation program takes us back to historic levels and represents a major commitment from the state of Illinois towards conservation. The Illinois Environmental Council worked very closely with us. They have a lot of influence and are respected by policymakers and lawmakers. I think their support made all the difference.
Since 1975, IEC has convened environmental organizations and individual environmentalists throughout the state of Illinois. We are building the power of the environmental movement by activating people and connecting their lawmakers to them, opening the doors of Springfield, of the city of Chicago, of the federal government to individual environmentalists that want to make a difference. We want decision makers that are educated about environmental issues. We want decision makers that are ready to take action now on environmental issues. And we want decision makers that will vote with the environment every single time.
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good night, enjoying your dinners. I'm Stacy Paradis. I am the Executive Director of the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, but I'm also very proud to be the Board President of the Illinois Environmental Council Education Fund. We are the C3 organization, so the non-lobbying organization that educates and advocates across the state for everything we can to protect the environment here in Illinois. So if I could, I would love to ask my fellow Education Fund board members to stand. I can't see any of you because of the lights. So if any of you are here, please stand up. If everybody join me, give them a round of applause. So one of my other jobs tonight is to talk about the exciting opportunity you have to not only just give us money, but also get some fun prizes as well. So I would really encourage you to bid on the silent auction. It's going to be open through tomorrow night. Some of the fun auction items are going to be a 4-night stay in Naples, an all-inclusive paddling and camping trip in the Mississippi River, Sarah Feigenholz's Cubs tickets. So Sarah must have the best tickets in town. I'm excited about that. Kelly Cassidy's infamous homemade cookies. And a private tour of Capsular's holdings in the Palos Preserves with Benjamin Cox, who is the conservationist and executive director of the Friends of the Forest Preserve. Or if you don't want to do that, you can get a private birding adventure with renowned birder Bob Fisher. So please check out these items. I encourage you to do that, and let me call Ann McKibben up to the stage.
Hi everyone, I'm Ann McKibben of Elevate, where I'm Policy Director. And we are proud IEC affiliate members. I'm also the President of IEC's Board of Directors. Board members of IEC, please stand. We'd love to recognize you. Thank you everyone for your service. Please give them a round of applause. Now I'd like to take a moment to recognize IEC's outstanding staff. You know, coming off of a really difficult 2020, but under the continued unprecedented circumstances, IEC staff has seized their moment this year and really played critical roles in the victories we're celebrating tonight. So let's celebrate them too now. So thank you to Jen Walling, to Deputy Director Colleen Smith, to the program staff, Lindsay Keeney, Elliot Clay, Ayana Simba, Tanisha Harris, Ariel Hampton, Danny Robles, and Brian Gill. Thank you. Thank you to the operations staff, Crystal Kern, Jeff Sheldon, Tucker Barry, Paloma Campillo, Ali Mejia, Ben Roth, and our recently departed Chief of Staff, who we still love, Matt Steffen. Thank you, everyone. Thanks as well to our interns, Shreya Patel and Kimberly Fair, who are here tonight. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the staff. And now I'll turn it over to Jen Walling.
Hi. All right, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I am so excited to see everybody here conversing. But if you can give me your attention for just a few minutes, I am going to give some of my first remarks in a couple of years. A little nervous. We'll see what happens. But I am so excited that we were able to get together safely tonight in person. Let's just that is so amazing. And I hope we're going to have events like this for years to come. I especially want to thank, we just thanked our staff, but I especially want to thank Jeff Sheldon, who was really the architect and shaped this event. We are so pleased at the work that he did, so thank you. And we thanked our board. I especially want to thank Stacey Paradis and Ann McKibben for their work. We have all been working constant overtime to accomplish so much this year. And as a result, we have something amazing to celebrate. And I got a lot of applause lines here. And I know we've said this already, but the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act is now law. And I don't know which part I'm most excited about, but let's just do some applause for a few of them. No more carbon from the power sector by 2045. $80 million a year for equity-focused workforce programs. Over $40 million a year for former fossil fuel workers and communities. 100% renewable energy by 2050. An end to the solar jobs cliff. 1 million electric vehicles by 2030. An increase to the low-income Solar for All program. And new ethics rules to end utility corruption. So this is my 10th annual dinner as Executive Director of IEC. And it's been fun being in the driver's seat. But after this year especially, I finally think all of the backseat drivers in our community are aligned. So that's exciting. In reviewing my speech from 10 years ago, first, I'm really grateful for our communications team, especially Tucker Barry, for doing so much to make IEC look and sound good. My first speech was rough, but I'm also struck by how much we accomplished that we set out to accomplish 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I was excited that 150 people attended our lobby day. Just before the pandemic hit, our 2020 lobby day had 750 people. And after our virtual lobby days topped 1,000 registrants. And 10 years ago, IEC had just one staff person and an intern. This year we have 15 full-time members and 100 affiliate organizations. 10 years ago, IEC prioritized polluted runoff from farm fertilizer as a major Illinois water quality issue. This year, we doubled the budget at the state to address this problem. 10 years ago, our community was divided, and we fit some notable but small environmental wins onto a package largely built for utilities. No environmental justice groups involved, no equity. In fact, 10 years ago, you could barely say the words climate change in Springfield. 10 years ago, I would never, ever have believed that only a decade later we'd be passing a bill for 100% renewable energy with major equity components led by environmental justice leaders. It's incredible, and I cannot wait to see what we accomplish 10 years from now. I want to talk some about that vision tonight. In 2030, we'll be hitting 40% renewable energy with the new investments from CEJA, with transformative investments in Black and Brown communities, in environmental justice communities, and in former power plant communities. We'll also need to tackle carbon from other sources, like transportation through electrification and buildings through decarbonization. We'll also need to invest more heavily in conservation and sustainable agriculture to store carbon emissions we can't eliminate. We're excited to see more investment in conservation jobs through the federal government, and a quick hat tip to Open Lands and Senator Durbin for their work on that. 10 years from now, we'll have used our power to tackle Illinois' major water issues, including making permanent the increased funding to reduce polluted agricultural runoff from the budget this year. We'll protect Lake Michigan from invasive carp and work to eliminate pollution in our drinking water supplies. But above all, we're going to need to continue to address the broken government infrastructure that has been decimated over the last 2 decades by budget cuts, hiring freezes, and poor treatment of our best workers. And I know the Pritzker administration is working to accomplish this. But I want to end tonight, I know we're all having fun here, I want to talk about a little more exciting topic, which is budgets. Let's talk some about budgets tonight. This year, in addition to climate, I know we did this big climate bill. What else did we do? We also secured a victory on another issue that IEC and our community has worked on for years. This year, Illinois finally passed a bill to inventory and replace all of our lead service lines. And I'm looking at the plumbers that are so excited about all that work. I really want to give a huge round of applause to our Deputy Director, Colleen Smith, because she negotiated, she's covering her eyes. She negotiated that bill to fruition when everyone thought it was dead. And I want to thank our sponsors, Senator Melinda Bush and Representative Lamont Robinson, that deserve so much recognition for getting it done. There is universal recognition that lead is incredibly dangerous to our health, especially the health of children. And we are certain, we know what works to remove lead, but that political will has been missing. It's clear that as we advance the environmental community forward, our chief opponent on this and many issues has been the excuse that we don't have the money. Who's going to pay for it? We're asked over and over. However, when our opponents say that the money isn't there to solve environmental problems, that statement is false. The truth is, if we do not have the funding to take the lead out of homes, that means we are funding to keep lead in homes. Instead of paying with dollars, we're paying with children's health. Instead of putting the solution in our infrastructure budget, we'll be spending far more money through education healthcare, and criminal justice budgets than the infrastructure ever would have cost in the first place. If we are not spending money on the solution, it means we are spending money to keep the problem around. And often, communities required to spend the most money on environmental problems are those who did not cause it and can least afford it. It should not take great leaders to recognize that we should be budgeting dollars to address environmental problems instead of budgeting lungs to filter dirty air, brains to absorb toxins, organs to clean dirty water. We should be spending dollars, not communities, families, and children. But it will take great leaders and great leadership to recognize that building political will and spending money to fix these problems now is the best use of these dollars. Polluters who caused the problem should pay for the solutions. At IEC, we'll be building power for people and the environment so that we can continue to champion the great leaders who will pass the budgets of the future. Many of them are here with us tonight, and to them, I say thank you for having the courage and wisdom to cast the votes that others have yet to find the political will to. Together, our numbers will grow, and we will put policy solutions and the smart budgets that support them in place, protecting our environment for generations to come. Here's to the next 10 years and all we will accomplish together. Thank you so much for indulging my first big speech in a couple years. And next, we're going to do our last awards before we conclude the event. So we're going to start with the Lifetime Champion Award, of which we'll have Jack Darren of the Sierra Club present the award. Jack's headed up, and our award winner, Cindy, you should head up as well.
Let's give it up for Jen Walling. Jen, you do such a great job, and to think back over 10 years, what you are now is just such a champion and a leader. Thank you for everything you do. Yeah, my name's Jack Darren. I'm the director of the Sierra Club Illinois chapter, and it's my incredible honor tonight to present this next award to a longtime friend and colleague that I just got to see tonight for the first time in a year and a half. So, and all of you, how about being together safely? Great job, IEC. If you're a fan of water, you're a fan of Cindy Screwcrude. Cindy is truly a force of nature, and I had the privilege of working with Cindy for 2 decades as she started and ran our Illinois Clean Water campaign at the Sierra Club. And her list of accomplishments is long and ongoing because she continues to do the work. But here are just a few highlights. Cindy has been the central catalyst, in my opinion, in forging consensus to tackle Illinois' most widespread water quality problem, which Jen talked about tonight, the overload of nutrients that degrade our rivers, lakes, and streams and threaten our wildlife and water supply. And when Cindy started doing this work 2 decades ago, there was no agreement that there was even a problem. There were little to no efforts by regulators or dischargers to do anything about the problem, and very little public awareness that the problem even existed. So Cindy waded into this situation, and she started educating people. She started building relationships. She started empowering volunteers to be citizen scientists. Many of you are here today, and advocates for the waters that they love. Of course, she didn't do it alone, but Cindy was at the center of the fundamental changes that led to Illinois now having a bold plan to tackle these problems, supported by the impacted stakeholders who didn't acknowledge the problem in the first place, and championed by the agencies who are now driving the solutions. There have been so many other issues in addition in special places where Cindy's leadership has made a critical difference. Watershed improvement plans for the Fox River, the Hackmatack National Wildlife Refuge. Any fans of the Hackmatack out there? Wetlands that have been protected, stormwater ordinances that have been enacted, and on and on. And yes, finally, action to move away from using toxic coal tar to pave our parking lots and driveways. And I didn't see her here tonight, but thank you and congratulations to Senator Laura Fine for finally passing that this year. So these are big wins for our water for now and the future, but there are also real lessons here, and I've learned a lot from watching Cindy work. And I think there are 3 lessons that I thought about in remarks, preparing these remarks, some critical elements for success no matter what the problems that we face. First, it's really important that we be grounded in science and the facts. As a PhD biochemist, Cindy's advocacy starts with science, and she can be incredibly patient with people like me and everyone, and effective in teaching people this science, people from all walks of life. And once people look at the facts together, it's so much easier to agree together on how we're going to solve those problems. And I think we could use a lot more of that today, wouldn't you say? Second, I think a lesson is to be open to working with and learning from everyone. You know, at the Sierra Club, we strive to do our organizing work in accordance with the Gomez principles for just democratic organizing. Thank you. Yay, Gomez. One of those principles is to build just relationships among ourselves, and Cindy models this every day. She views every single person she comes across as a potential partner, regardless of their background, their politics, their role, their history, and that has been so crucial in building the movement that we have today for clean water and healthy lands. And also just was an incredible teammate to work with on our staff team, always reaching beyond her scope to help someone in need, whether it was part of her job or not. And third and lastly, the lesson is to love what you do so that you can throw your whole self into the work. Now, I miss talking to Cindy every day, but Cindy, I'm glad that you finally were able to retire. I know it took years of trying to do it, and I know why it was so hard, because I've seen how much this work means to you, how it drives you, and even today, as you keep doing so much of it as a volunteer. I have to say, I'm not surprised to see you so engaged in the work because I know how much it means to you, and we are all incredibly lucky to have you as such a leader in this community. So with that, let's raise a glass, and wine will work fine for this, but I think Lake Michigan's finest is also a perfect pairing for the occasion. To this year's recipient of the Lifetime Achievement Award, Dr. Cindy Screwcrude. Cindy? Oh, there you are.
Oh, thank you so much, Jack. That was so nice. Since this award was announced, I've enjoyed reminiscing with others about all the projects we've worked on together over the years. And that has reminded me again of the proverb I like very much that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think we've heard that so many times from others already tonight. So my thanks go back to all of you, both staff members and volunteers who I've worked with at IEC and Sierra Club and the Environmental Defenders and many, many other organizations and individuals present here tonight and at home. And then also to you here whose work is focused on issues that I have not spent much time on, thank you too for all you do. I truly appreciate your leadership. There is so much that we need to do to create the world we want to live in. So thanks to all of you for the roles you are playing in making that world. Thank you again. Clean water for all.
I have another one of our board members, Brian Urbacheski, is coming up to the stage now. And he is going to present our Community Champion Award to the Stop General Iron campaign.
And I have to say, my name is Brian Urbacheski. I'm the Director of Environmental Health Programs for Respiratory Health Association. We're one of the founding members of IEC back in 1975. I'm so glad to see we have 100 groups under our wing now. So, in recognition of all the small groups out there that are fighting every single day, I'm going to tell you a story. In 2020, it was announced that a known polluter, the scrap metal recycling facility General Iron, would be, rough crowd, would be moving from the predominantly white and affluent Lincoln Park neighborhood where it regularly violated environmental regulations, spewed toxic fluff over the neighborhood, and caused an explosion, complete with a mushroom cloud. To the 10th Ward on the southeast side, an area already overburdened with industrial pollution and home to some of the dirtiest air in the city. Southeast Side residents saw this move as a textbook example of environmental racism. And the community said, enough is enough. Ya basta. So on February 4th, 2021, 3 residents of Chicago's Southeast Side embarked on a hunger strike that would last a month, garner international media attention, and accumulate dozens of strikers from the community along with solidarity strikers from throughout the state. Dozens of Southeast Siders, residents, activists, teachers, students, put their bodies on the line earlier this year in order to protect the health and well-being of their community. Finally, after over a year of organizing, the Southeast Side won. In May, Mayor Lightfoot, at the urging of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, halted the permit for the facility, likely stopping the permitting process for years to come. Now, the fight's not done yet, but tonight we can and we should celebrate how far you all brought us with this impressive campaign. Tonight, I'd like to present the Community Champion Award to the Stop General Iron campaign. Now, this is a long list because this was not the effort of one person. Oscar Sanchez is going to accept the award, but in attendance tonight we have Olga Bautista, Gina Ramirez, Ivan Moreno, Carlos Enriquez, Deepti Hossain, Matt Zemanek, Marcelina Pedraza, and we'd also like to recognize the work of the community organizations involved. The Alliance of the Southeast Youth Alliance, Southeast Environmental Task Force, United Neighbors of the 10th Ward, Bridges, Puentes, and the Southeast Coalition to Ban Pet Coke.
Good evening. My name is Oscar Sanchez, and I'm a proud resident of the southeast side of Chicago. And I am honored to be here accepting this award on behalf of the Stop General Iron campaign. Can we give it up for this campaign, please? Today, our coalition of remarkable community organizers are being presented with an award for our campaign. And this demonstrates the need for our beloved city, our state, our nation to recognize the devastating effects of environmental injustices. Martin Luther King said, "An injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere." And as my mentors have shared with me, there is a lot of work to do. But I want to take time to say, I wouldn't be here today if it weren't for what my mother created for me. My mother settled in Chicago because she had hoped to make this her home. And despite being abandoned by her partner, 24 years ago, Chicago became her refuge. I won't ever forget being held in my mother's arms. She was holding her head high, trying not to show her tears. And through the most difficult times, she would say, "No tenemos tanto, pero tenemos uno al otro." We don't have much, but we have each other. While my mother worked late hours, over 40 hours a week, my community took care of me. My classmates, aunts, uncles, godparents, neighbors, their homes became my home. Even when we needed help, food, education, our community was always present. They took the extra mile to be there for us. When it felt like we had nothing, we truly had everything because we learned to count on our community. That's why community brings me hope, because we keep us safe, we keep us fed, and we are the ones taking care of one another. This is the southeast side to me, the one I know and love. During this pandemic, when this first started, community members, organizers rushed to make sure the needs of the community were being met, to make sure we had healing spaces. And making sure the quality of life for every single community member was being improved. This is the Chicago I know. When we see an injustice, we lift up our voices. When we see an injustice, we fight. And when the people fight, the people win. That brings us to this moment, here, now. As an activist, hunger striker, and community member, this award is much more than a title. For those of us who have fought for years, and for those that have stood beside us during this battle, it is a representation of the sacrifices, losses, and challenges we have faced, but it is also recognizing the victories we have accomplished. This award is not just for us. It is not ours. It is an award of the people in the communities who, like us, have to deal with dirty industries and the city putting profit over people. We are here because we understand the urgency to address environmental justice. We have learned and experienced firsthand what happens when these injustices are ignored. It can be hard to make people understand what it is like to live next door to these industries, these dirty industries. But I assure you, it is nothing you wish to do. Because living in these areas means that the soil you walk on, garden on, live on is never clean. It means that the air you breathe is never clean. It means you grow up right next door to one thing that will continue to hurt you from the day you are born to the day you die. And we fought against this because no one in the Southeast Side, in Lincoln Park, no one in Chicago should live in constant fear of death. We are fighting for the communities that we deserve. I will always say community members are the ones taking care of the community. And that's how Chicago took care of me, my ma, and made Chicago our home. We want Chicago to continue being a refuge to all. And I believe we can achieve that, especially following the lead from community leaders and grassroots movements. To build a Chicago that will make sure that everyone's needs are met and have the same quality of life in every single neighborhood. To build a Chicago that will listen to the youth. To build a Chicago led by the people for the people. To build a Chicago that will be the home that my mother envisioned. This is the Chicago we work towards. Thank you. Boss wants a hug.
All right, everyone, we have one final award, and the participant couldn't be here tonight, so we have a short video. But first, I'm going to present Pastor Booker Vance from Elevate to present the award.
One of the things that I've learned as a pastor, as a preacher for many years, sometimes when you have a hotter presentation as that one, you got to give some space in the room, because my brothers and sisters, the ancestors are with us, and they're reminding us of the challenges that we are facing throughout this city. And our Latino community has expressed and continued to express and ask for our support in what's going on the southeast side of Chicago. So let us just pause a minute to commit ourselves to the battle with General Iron and all the battles that go on in communities throughout this city, whether it's in Waukegan, whether it's in Pilsen, whether it's in PCR and the Allgale Gardens. These are the places where the rubber hits the road, and our children and our young people are being impacted. So again, thank you and applaud you, and we're with you, and keep calling on us. I came to Chicago in 1980, coming to go to seminary to learn a little bit about the church and how the church could be relevant in the city and in the neighborhoods. When I came to the city, I learned and worked for 20 years on the south side, but only about my 20th year is when we built an urban garden on the side of the church. And we began to grow all the simple things from collard greens to cabbage to all the things that were in the neighborhood. And it was a wonderful experience, but we taught the children who were in the day camp also about gardening and how to put your hands in and get dirty and to do those things. And they learned a little bit about healthy eating and healthy food, thanks to Faith in Place and other places who continue to taught our children. But one of the things not only we learned about the gardening was the thing, but we also learned about the butterfly garden. And my sister was here this evening, who was here, the Rev, and she was sharing us about the monarch butterfly. If you know much about the monarch butterfly, it starts in Mexico. It starts in Mexico, and it makes its way all the way up to Chicago. It's called migration. I think that's what they call it. And you parallel the trip of the monarch butterfly, which is the symbol of IEC, and we look at that. And everywhere that the monarch butterfly goes, there's what they call milkweed. And the milkweed is the flower of this state. And so as they travel, you'll find milkweed all along the way. While also, black folk and brown folk come from places like Alabama, Mississippi, and other places, and we migrated to this great state of Illinois. And if you check us out, everywhere we go, there'll be collard greens, mustard greens, all the things that we know we need to sustain ourselves, just like the milkweed sustains the butterfly, the beautiful butterfly, the greens and other vegetables. And you'll catch, if you check many of the backyards on the south side and the west side of Chicago, you'll find a garden in about every household. And tonight's awardee for this award is one of the best examples of how we take what we learned from our ancestors and we apply it in our neighborhoods and communities. That COVID, while it presented a challenge, we recognized that all we had to do was go back to what our roots. We had to go back to planting in our backyard. This pioneer, this pilgrim, this model, this example that we lift up this evening lives in Elmhurst. Somebody knows where Elmhurst is. And she's been learning from her ancestors and picking up from her ancestors for decades. She and her family has enjoyed produce right from her backyard, just like many of us have enjoyed it, those of us who are true environmentalists. We enjoy the good stuff from the backyard. You just go in the backyard and you pick you some stuff, some beans and some collard greens. And she has done this to be noted. She worked with her husband, who was a math teacher and an engineer, about growing food. And she and her husband, who was an engineer by trade, installed a temporary hoop house to extend the growing season until all the neighborhoods. And in Chicago, it's a little different from the South, because when it gets cold, sometimes stuff has to stop. But when you figure out how to put a hoop house together and learn how to heat your stuff, then you're able to grow in seasons that are not necessarily viable for the vegetables. Well, she's done this, but not only did she do that, what's even more instrumental is that she went from doing the work in the backyard to doing the work in Springfield. That's enough for you to shout right now. She took the garden to the halls of Springfield, to the Illinois State Capitol, where she worked to pass legislation protecting home gardeners across the state for the past 3 years. This year, her dedication paid off as the General Assembly finally passed H. Bill 633, the Right to Garden Act. She is truly an example of all concerned citizens of how people really can solve their problems through advocacy and tenacity. And truly, because of her, gardeners and those who grow their own food across the state have explicit right to do so on their own. Well, black folk and brown folk were doing it already, so they just don't, but we just need to know that she lifted this up to a high level. So now they can't come in your backyard and tell you what you can't do no more. So we're thankful for this legislation. We're thankful for her work. And she is the recipient of this award, which has demonstrated the qualities of leadership, determination to which we should all aspire. I'd like to present this year's Conservation Champion Award to Nicole Virgil, who will be accepting via video. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Jen Walling, IEC, and Elliot Clay for this award, and the board members who were in support of me receiving this. I wish I could be there with you this evening. It would be so much nicer to be in person, but alas, here we are. So thank you all for coming and supporting IEC. It was back in 2015 when this saga started, where my husband and I were not allowed to cover our backyard garden so that we could harvest food through the winter. And a few years later, after exhausting all reasonable methods of resolution at the local level, IEC and Jen Walling and Elliot came to our aid. And after several years of assisting with the legislation and all the process that goes on, the back and forth, they were able to work with the Institute for Justice, who also helped us. Ari Bargill was a rock star. Elliot was great. He contributed so much time to supporting the YouTube channel, which was one of the methods that we used to get the word out, and sitting and answering so many questions with me on the phone about how to talk to legislators, when to talk to legislators, the best avenues for witness slipping, etc. And I really couldn't have done it without IEC and their support. It was just invaluable. And so now I'm really grateful and just humbled to say that the state of Illinois has the second only ever passed right to garden bill, or Vegetable Garden Protection Act, which protects the right of all Illinois homeowners to grow food year-round on their property without too much interference from local government. I'm thrilled that Illinois has taken the step of passing the Vegetable Garden Protection Act, or the Right to Garden Act, so that we all Illinois residents have the right to grow food year-round without interference from their local government. Thank you to IEC, thank you Elliot, thank you Jen. Thank you all, have a good night.
All right, and thank you everyone. That was our last award. I just want to give you all another thank you for coming out tonight. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so I have had such a great time. Just want to remind you all about the silent auction. Also, somebody who I think is an elected official may have lost their phone. Yes, we found them. So Jeff, Jeff is going to come return your phone to you. That is your prize in the silent auction tonight. But again, thanks for coming. Silent auction, capital campaign contributions if you can, and then we're going to conclude the night. If you would like to join us at the hotel bar, that's usually Rob Kelter's line, so I'm not delivering it as well as he does. But again, thanks for coming. Have a great night.